Let's talk about self-talk. In this explainer, we're going to explore the work of Danielle Body, and we're going to see how the words we use aren't just thoughts. They're more like the actual building blocks of our inner lives. And it all really boils down to this one big question. You've probably heard that phrase a million times, right? Sounds like something you'd see on a coffee mug. But what if it's not just a nice little metaphor? What if it's a structural reality? Let's dig into how words can literally, physically build the space that you live in right inside your own head. So let's start with this idea of inner architecture. The whole concept here is that words aren't just passive. They're not just decorations. No, they are the active, structural parts that are shaping your internal world every single day. I mean, you know the feeling, right? Someone says something, a criticism, a casual comment, and it doesn't just bounce off you. It lands. It's got weight. It kind of breaks through the surface. These words, they aren't just heard, they're absorbed, and they start to take up actual space inside you. And this brings us to a really powerful way to think about this, the tenant metaphor. Imagine these words are like tenants. They don't just pop in for a quick visit. Oh no, they move in. They show up with all their baggage, they start setting up their own mental furniture, and they bring all their influence with them, all before you've even had a chance to say yes or no. So what happens then? What happens once these occupants have moved in? Well, without us even realizing it, we start living our lives around them. We start to adapt. It's wild, but we do it. We start this unconscious negotiation. We tiptoe around our own thoughts. We rearrange our own behaviors just to make room for these inner voices. And pretty soon their presence just feels normal. Why? Simply because they've been there for so long. We end up living by a set of rules we never even agreed to. And the result of all this? It's a really cluttered inner world. These old stories become mental furniture, outdated beliefs just taking up precious space. They build these invisible walls that keep us from seeing new possibilities. And the whole atmosphere inside just gets so crowded, so noisy, that our real, actual relationships have to fight for our attention. And this is probably the most crucial piece of the puzzle. That critical, nagging, limiting voice you hear in your head. So often, it isn't even yours. It's an echo. It's literally someone else's breath, their belief system that has taken up residence inside of you. Just realizing that it's not you, is the first massive step to taking your power back. Now, living this way, it's not free. Not by a long shot. There is a very real and very high cost to housing these uninvited guests. So let's talk about the bill that comes due every single day. Think about it like this. You're paying the utility bills for tenants you never even invited in the first place. Of course you're dealing with a constant energy drain. It's why you feel exhausted before the day even gets going. It's why you feel that unexplained emotional strain. And it's for sure why you feel that creative blockage, because all your power is being siphoned off to keep these narratives alive that were never even yours. Okay, so how do we stop this? How do we go from being this passive host to becoming the conscious architect of our own inner world? This is the pivot point. This is where we take back the blueprint. The very first step is to see through a really powerful illusion. Listen to this. Just because a thought feels familiar does not mean it is your identity. And just because a script has been repeated 1,000 times in your head, that does not make it true. Our brains aren't wired for truth, They're wired for repetition. Getting that difference is like finding the master key to your own house. So the work here doesn't start with a fight. It starts with awareness. The goal isn't to wrestle these voices into submission or shame them into being quiet. It's just to notice them, to see them with compassion without judging them. That awareness, that simple act of noticing, is what puts you back in the driver's seat. And this next idea, this can really shift the whole power dynamic. Let's reframe this. Let's stop calling them powerful tenants. Let's call them what they really are, squatters. Think about it. They never signed a lease. They don't pay any rent. They have absolutely no legal right to be there. They aren't powerful parts of you. They're just illegitimate occupants who've overstayed their welcome. And the moment you see them as squatters, you realize you have all the authority. This is that moment of self-leadership. It's you, as the rightful owner of your own mind, taping an eviction notice to the door. You simply don't need this old story anymore. And maybe more importantly, you just can't afford the cost of letting it stay. So all of this leads us to the ultimate goal, which is presence. And presence isn't some passive, floaty state of being. No, it is the conscious, active occupancy of yourself. It is you standing at the doorway to your own inner world and deliberately choosing which thoughts, which beliefs, and which words get to come inside and live with you. So let's bring it all the way back to where we started. This is how your words create your life. It's not by accident, it's by choice. It happens when you recognize the architecture of your inner world, when you evict the narratives that are holding you back, and when you consciously choose the words that will build the kind of home you actually want to live in. You are allowed to reclaim your space. The only question left is, will you?